Hilda's experience has been gradually changing as the seasons have passed, in a similar way to Adventure Time's transition from goofy fun adventures to more serious character-driven stories. This movie plays on the cheesy horror UFO movies of the past, with how the safety patrol tries to convince the populace with misinformation training videos. This movie pays off all the setups that's been building, including the troll-centric story that has existed throughout. The comedy has become more varied than usual. For example, the carrot that's okay with having their leaf nibbled on. Honestly, the story is okay with some darker elements as a whole, with some characters even kicking the bucket. Cedric will be missed. And the stinger at the end, with the troll's mother, was a powerful send-off and conclusion to the whole story. But before I get into all that, today I'm going to be witnessing the magic of the trolls and dissecting just what exactly this story does so well with Hilda and the Mountain King. Hilda has always managed to keep all of its individual episodes interesting, even though they didn't all follow one continuous plot. But what's interesting is how the writers tackle the one story they have been building up to for a long time. This story was better than the average Hilda episode for sure, and all the characters had multiple sides to them. While Trundle the Mountain King at first may seem like a purely evil bad guy, he's not really. He never planned on hurting the humans himself. His plan wasn't to wreak havoc, but he did give up his life in hoping that the mother of all trolls would no longer stand idly by. The reveal at the end, that she could have gotten up at any time, but chose not to, knowing it would destroy all of Trollberg, was heavy, and really showed just how wrong people's perceptions were. This story didn't focus on many of the side characters, but they did have smaller stories to go on while the main plot continued onward. Most of it was focused on Hilda, learning more about the world around her, and the message of diplomacy and kindness feels earned. When writing a story, the ability to instill lessons purely through a narrative is what allows the viewer to really take in its message. I think my favorite character had to be Trundle. He definitely stands out from the others we've seen thus far. He's laid back, content, and strangely kind for what his goals ultimately were. He was so sure in his ideals, yet didn't let himself just blindly chase it. He wouldn't fight his brother. He didn't dare throw the first punch at the Trollberg safety police. And he met his end with a smile. I just love how much of this story was able to take everything 2 seasons has built up and find a way to pay it off. The trolls have been a persistent plot point for some time, and the way the story subverts every event thus far is special. The bells are not the reason the trolls want to get into Trollberg, and their personalities differ greatly from one another. But what did really surprise me was the death of Cedric. I know he wasn't a major character or anything, but it still caught me by surprise. The show hasn't really dealt with death before, and I get the feeling Season 3 is going to go in a heavier direction. I will say, the movie isn't perfect. I think it does stretch out its plot a bit too long. I know I said the side characters had some side plots to handle, but ultimately, they don't amount to anything, and made the story feel a bit too long. Another thing that confused me was being able to talk to the trolls. Why was Hilda, and potentially the rest of the gang, able to understand the troll mother without being a troll? At the beginning of the story, she mentions that she can be understood because Hilda was a troll, so it doesn't make sense for that to remain after she turns back. This movie was a fun watch, but the one thing I'm left with is, what's left? They have announced that Season 3 is coming soon, but will the story be able to justify its continuation? The troll plotline is over, the witch story's been mostly resolved, and the character growth moments have already passed. So I'm not sure if anything after this point can feel substantial enough for a full season. I am ready to be proven wrong though, because so far the series has kept my attention all the way through. What did you all think of Hilda and the Mountain King? Do you agree that Trundle was one of the more interesting characters we've seen so far? What will Season 3 potentially cover? Let me know in the comments below, and subscribe if you want to see more, ringing the bell so you know when I release my next video. I hope to see you next time.